One night, police officers found the bodies of a woman's own nephews inside the trunk of her car. What started as a simple traffic violation on the outskirts of Baltimore quickly turned into a scene straight out of a nightmare. When officers opened the trunk, they were hit by an unbearable stench, and what they found was horrifying. Two small children, just 7 and 5 years old, wrapped in plastic and an old cloth bag. The woman who was supposed to protect them was their aunt, but behind her kind appearance hid a dark secret of abuse, neglect, and death. How could a promise of safety turn into such a monstrous crime, one that led her to hide the bodies for months while pretending everything was normal? This is the true story of a case that shocked the entire United States and left a family in terror. What investigators uncovered afterward was even more disturbing. This is the case of siblings Larry and Joselin. To understand what happened, we must first travel to the heart of Dayton, Ohio, an industrial city built on strong family ties, where on April 15, 2013, Joselin Mary James Johnson was born. She came into a home filled with generosity and unconditional love provided by her great-aunt and great-uncle, Marion Phillips, affectionately called Dad by the children, and Evelyn Phillips Simon, known as Nana. Evelyn, a retired nurse with a warm heart, and Marion, a strong man shaped by years in construction, had raised Joselin's mother, Deshelle Johnson, from the time she was 7 after the tragic death of her biological parents. That home became a protective nest where little Joselin spent her early years surrounded by loving routines, crawling across the floors, laughing at her uncle's jokes, and taking part in school activities that nurtured her curiosity. By age 5, she was already attending public school, her voice filling the classroom as she recited poems in a contest her mother had ironically won when she was in 4th grade at the same school. Joselin was naturally protective, a caring older sister who took her responsibilities seriously, and at her age weighed around 35 pounds, perfectly normal. Her world was relatively stable, baking cookies with Nana, enjoying family visits filled with gifts and stories that strengthened her sense of belonging. But like many families, theirs was not free of shadows. Deshelle, still a young mother, struggled to balance parenting with part-time jobs as a waitress while relying on the Phillipses' steady support to raise her daughter. Even so, on August 3, 2016, during a hot summer, the family welcomed Larry Darnell O'Neill III, Joselin's half-brother, completing the inseparable duo. Larry, lovingly called Little Larry, or Man-Man, was born in the same home where the Phillipses continued to provide emotional stability without ever seeing the children as a burden. His father, Larry O'Neill Jr., was largely absent due to work in another city, so the boy grew up as the perfect counterpart to his sister, energetic, playful, mischievous, always spilling flour in the kitchen or sneaking cookies from the jar with a cheeky grin. Joselin, 3 years older, became his natural protector, changing his diapers as a baby, defending him at the park, comforting him during storms with warm hugs. Their bond became unbreakable. Family members joked that if Larry visited without Joselin, she would shout in the background of phone calls demanding to join him. Larry's paternal grandmother, Claudia Pittsonell, visited often, bringing presents and telling stories that captivated the kids, while the children enjoyed car rides with their grandfather and moments of baking with their grandmother. In every way, the Phillipses, who had once rescued and raised Deshelle, extended that same profound love to Joselin and Larry. Their home had become a sanctuary of laughter and adventures. But tragically, Evelyn passed away in 2018, leaving an irreplaceable void. Marion, still grieving her loss, continued to act as a father figure to the children, affectionately referring to them as precious souls and adorable little ones. Their formative years until 2019 painted a picture of fragile innocence amid family struggles. As for Deshelle, she successfully graduated from local public schools and dreamed of a future beyond the limitations of her city, hoping for a better quality of life. However, early motherhood and financial pressures led her to make poor decisions that would later have irreversible and tragic consequences. In July 2019, overwhelmed by debt and personal problems that allegedly prevented her from properly caring for her children, she decided to move to another state in search of a fresh start. But instead of taking her children, she left them behind. She entrusted 6-year-old Joselin and nearly 3-year-old Larry to her older sister, Nicole Michelle Johnson, expecting her to care for them temporarily, believing this was a solid family arrangement, a situation she would later describe as family helping family. Nicole, born around 1988 in Dayton, Ohio, was Deshelle's older sister, raised by her mother, Michelle Johnson, a woman described by those who knew her as hardened by life, who raised her daughters with a mix of fierce love and high expectations. Nicole's childhood and adolescence are largely unknown beyond their family's losses and constant relocations. Some reports suggest she displayed early signs of social withdrawal, difficulty forming lasting relationships, and a personality oscillating between apathy and passive aggression. Though no direct abuse was reported, neighbors and former classmates recalled her defiant attitude towards authority and compulsive lying. By 2019, she lived an unstable life, often in motels, dependent on social assistance and with no reported steady employment, and at times involved in sex work. The relationship between Nicole and Deschelle was mutually supportive, but fraught with family concerns, as Marion Phillips and other relatives had warned that Nicole was unreliable and unsafe to leave the children with. Nevertheless, in November 2019, Deschelle moved in with a man at a nearby motel, leaving Joselin and Larry exclusively under Nicole's care. The children, torn from the warmth and love of their early years, initially tried to adapt to this new nomadic, precarious lifestyle, often spending nights in motels or even in the car. Nicole repeatedly reassured family members that the children were safe, telling Marion, for example, that they were playing outside or sleeping, while Deschelle tried unsuccessfully to contact her. By March 2021, Deschelle arranged to reunite with her children, but Nicole simply disappeared, leaving her sister in growing anxiety. Then, on the night of July 28, 2021, around 11:17 p.m., a Baltimore County police officer pulled over Nicole's car for speeding, fake temporary plates, and lack of registration and a driver's license. Initially calm, Nicole made strange, seemingly casual comments, saying that she didn't care because she wouldn't be there in 3 days, and added, "You'll see them on the news making my big debut." Words that would prove eerily prophetic. Because of the violations, the car was to be towed, and Nicole asked officers to let her retrieve belongings from the trunk. While doing so, one officer smelled decomposition and asked her to show the bags, including a suitcase she tried to cover with a blanket, claiming it was just dirty laundry. Upon inspection, they discovered a severely decomposed body of what appeared to be a child, and at that moment, Nicole attempted to flee. But officers quickly caught her nearby, visibly shaken by the horrific discovery, as captured by body camera footage. One officer asked her to open the trunk, suspecting nothing illegal at first, only to be hit by the smell of decomposition. Nicole tried to cover a suitcase with a blanket, claiming it was just dirty clothes. Once the trunk was opened, police immediately alerted homicide detectives who found the second child inside a plastic bag in what was described as one of the most shocking crime scenes they had ever witnessed. Nicole was taken to the county detention center, where her behavior during interrogation was erratic, alternating between tears and indifference. At times, she claimed she didn't know what to do with the bodies and feared the consequences. Her statements were inconsistent, initially denying any wrongdoing, later admitting partially, and eventually accepting full responsibility. Investigators learned that the tragedy began in May 2020, while Nicole was staying in a hotel with the children. She admitted to losing patience with 7-year-old Joselin, hitting her multiple times until the girl fell and struck her head on the floor. Instead of seeking medical help, Nicole wrapped Joselin's small body in plastic, placed it in a suitcase, and stored it in the trunk of her car. 4-year-old Larry witnessed the horror silently. Over the following months, Nicole wandered the city, staying in motels and makeshift camps, while Joselin's body remained hidden for over a year. Larry, though surviving his sister's death, endured horrific conditions, malnutrition, and an unexplained wound on his left leg. In May 2021, 2 months before the bodies were discovered, Larry fell asleep in the backseat of the car, murmuring that he was tired, and never woke up. a victim of prolonged neglect, trauma, and malnutrition. Nicole placed his body in a large plastic bag alongside Joselin's suitcase, all while continuing her daily routine, masking the stench with cheap air fresheners, and lying to Deschel and other family members about calls and visits that never occurred. During her confession, Nicole shed some tears, but her words remained cold and lacking immediate remorse. Autopsies classified both deaths as homicides by unspecified means, with overwhelming evidence of extreme abuse and neglect. On July 29, 2021, Nicole was officially charged with 2 counts of first-degree child abuse resulting in death, child neglect, failure to report a child's death, and unauthorized burial of human remains. She was held without bail. Media coverage exploded, depicting emaciated children found in a car trunk after months of concealment, emphasizing family betrayal and the fragility of trust within support networks. Released body cam footage showed the raw discovery, the odor, the worms, and Nicole's failed attempt to escape, leaving a profound impact on national and local broadcasts. In August 2021, court documents revealed the harrowing details of autopsies and confessions, sparking debates over failures in child protection systems and parental neglect. A public outrage spread across social media and news programs, with experts discussing how a promise of care became a nightmare, while psychologists speculated about untreated mental collapse, trying to understand Nicole's horrific behavior. The community and family responded with a whirlwind of grief and anger, organizing a vigil on August 1, 2021, leaving stuffed animals, drawings, and balloons to honor the children's lost innocence. County officials publicly expressed condolences, calling the case devastating beyond comprehension, while the officers involved sought therapy after being traumatized by the discovery. Deschel, notified by detectives shortly after the find, collapsed in tears, revealing she had tried to recover her children in March 2021, but was ignored by Nicole. Michelle, mother of both sisters, reacted with fury, demanding that Nicole and Deschel be held accountable for their grandchildren. Miriam remembered the children as inseparable and adorable, highlighting how Joselin cared for Larry, while Deschel lamented the lies about missed visits. The legal process involved psychiatric evaluations and preliminary appeals, until, on August 13, 2024, 36-year-old Nicole pled guilty to the 2 principal counts of first-degree child abuse resulting in death, avoiding a full trial through a plea deal. Dressed in an orange jumpsuit, she avoided eye contact with the family. On February 10, 2025, Nicole was sentenced to life imprisonment, with 50 years to be served concurrently, effectively keeping her behind bars until age 86. During sentencing, she covered her face with her hands. The community held vigils with poems and balloons, while media coverage revisited the images of that day, reigniting debates about sentences for child abuse. Deschel began family therapy, honoring her children with shared memories. While Nicole's sentence closed the judicial process, public debate continued, questioning the role of social services, school follow-up failures, and institutional neglect. The case of Nicole Michelle Johnson became a stark reminder of the invisibility of vulnerable children and the need to strengthen protective systems. In a world where trust can be broken so easily, this story is a collective call to listen, question, and intervene before the trunk of neglect closes forever. And as this chapter of darkness ends, one haunting question remains: how can an aunt, a blood relative so close, become the architect of such a nightmare?